Thank you for your patience and delaying. All right. Are you ready, Erin? Should I wait for you? All right, so I am calling to order this hearing on behalf of our nominee, for whom I will read your nomination letter to kick us off. I'm Tara Jacobs, Governor's Counselor for District 8. So on November 5th, 2025, to the Executive Council, dear counselors, I am pleased to nominate Lori B. Leavitt Wheeler to the position of Clerk Magistrate of the Hampden County Juvenile Court. I submit this nomination for the advice and consent of the Executive Council pursuant to the relevant laws. I am enclosing the nominee's resume for your convenience. Sincerely, Maura T. Healy. So congratulations on your nomination. Welcome this morning. I'd like to start by introducing my fellow counselors. To my right, we have Counselor Civil, Counselor Ziegler, Counselor Kennedy, and Counselor DiPaolo. I think we'll be joined shortly by some others. I'd like to give you the opportunity to introduce to us who you brought with you today, and then we'll call up your first witness.
It's been Jim Wheeler, Judge Dunbar, First Justice Paradise, and Deputy Court Administrator Tom Capazzo.
Well, welcome. Good morning. I would like to first invite Judge Paradise to come up, and you can stand, you can sit, whatever makes you most comfortable, but looking forward to hearing from you.
All right, thank you so much. So I am David Paradise. I'm the first justice for the Hampden County Juvenile Court. I want to thank Governor Healy for acting Clerk Wheeler's nomination and the Governor's Council for allowing me to speak on her behalf of the nomination. I was a practitioner in the Hampden County Juvenile Court for 27 years, 9 years as a supervising attorney. I became a circuit justice in there in January of 20. I became the first justice in October of 21. And I've held that position currently. In my professional capacity, I have had the opportunity to observe Lori as a permanent placement facilitator, as an assistant clerk magistrate, a first assistant clerk magistrate, and as the acting clerk magistrate. As a supervising attorney at Hampden County Juvenile Court, I interacted with Clerk Wheeler multiple times per week. I also witnessed numerous weekly interactions she had with other attorneys and parties on cases before the court. During those interactions, Clerk Wheeler was always patient, understanding, warm, calm, helpful, empathetic to the positions of the parties she interacted with. We served on many committees together, and she always demonstrated her ability to problem solve, create new procedures, and take on additional tasks to assist the smooth running of the court. Since I've become a circuit justice and then the first justice of Hampden County, I have learned of all the work that Clerk Wheeler does behind the scenes. She is always a presence in the clerk's office and routinely is the last to leave at the end of the day. She leads by example and demonstrates the dedication, hard work, compassion, and empathy needed to work in such a busy court. She treats everyone, judges, probation officers, attorneys, pro se litigants, employees with dignity, respect, and compassion. Clerk Wheeler is gifted at creating processes for new challenges or changes of procedures to the juvenile court as a whole or the clerk's office specifically. When the crime bill was passed, it created a very convoluted procedure for handling first offense minor misdemeanors charges for juveniles. They are known in juvenile court as Wallace W hearings. Clerk Wheeler created a guide for the clerk's office to use for the handling of those cases. She created a list of charges that apply to those hearings, a flow chart of the different scenarios that the court will face in the system for alerting the judges to the issues of these cases. Clerk Wheeler then trained all the support staff on the requirements of the procedures and created forms for her staff to use. Clerk Wheeler's leadership, knowledge of the law, and creation of the procedures made for a seamless implementation of the very complicated change of the law. Clerk Wheeler has spent the past 4.5 years performing the day-to-day functions of the clerk magistrate. She has demonstrated to all the different departments within the juvenile court that she is the right person to continue in that role. For my support and recommendation on her behalf, and I ask you all to confirm her nomination.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Counselor Kennedy?
Yes,
Judge, it's good to see you.
thank you.
How are things going out in juvenile court up there? How are things going?
It is good. It's very busy. I know we just had a judge confirm recently, and he will
Very
be
busy. The kids aren't behaving themselves out in Western Mass?
as much as we'd like them to, but he's gonna be sitting in Hampden County, so that's gonna be wonderful. And he's training right now. He'll start the third week of December, so we're very excited about that.
And how long have you been on now?
January will be 6 years.
6 years?
Thank you for your vote, by the way.
I was gonna file a motion to reconsider.
Right.
Good to see you, Jim.
Nice seeing you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you so much, Judge. I'd like to call up now the Honorable Judge Dunbar, retired.
Well, good morning, everyone. I first want to say that I haven't been in this room before the Governor's Council since November 1999. So I was looking forward to seeing the Honorable Ionella. He made it in here also. So I have known Lori, the candidate, since 2003. Lori was our maybe second law clerk back at the turn of the century. And if I can describe Lori in one word, it would be dedication. She is the most dedicated person, I think, that I've had the privilege to work with in the juvenile court. She loves her job. She loves the court. She worked for us as a law clerk for about 3 years, and then you can't be a law clerk anymore. So you have to develop your job. That's what she wanted to do. We all urged her, Laura, you have to get out there in the real world. You have to work in a law firm, become a litigator, da, da, da. So she did. And then when she had the chance to come back in 2012, I had the privilege to interview her again. And at that time, that interview took place 3 days after her daughter was born. See what I mean when I say dedication? So anyway, what I want to say also about Lori and her abilities with the juvenile court, she's had many, many responsibilities. Sometimes she was wearing the shoes of the clerk magistrate in these circumstances. She also was doing the first assistant clerk responsibilities when she wasn't the first assistant. And she loves the court, and this is her opportunity to become the clerk magistrate. So I hope that you all will vote for Lori, because we have known her for a long time and we have every faith in her. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments for the judge?
Well, thank you, Judge. It's great to hear from you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I'm retired in February.
Something said that you didn't come back so long?
That's a story for another time. No, I'm just
Working on the bench.
I'm gonna turn it over to you in a second, but I just wanted to add to the support of your witnesses that we've received an abundance of enthusiastic letters from such an amazingly diverse set of folks. And I just wanted to allude to that before moving forward, but we have attorneys, we have court officers, we have probation officers, we have judges, we have on and on and on. And so it just, I hope everyone's had a chance to take a look at it, but clearly you have a ton of support in Hampden County, and it says a lot. Before I turn to you, in this very packed room, do I see anyone here for opposition? Seeing none, the floor is yours to share your statement with us.
Good morning. I first want to thank a few people with whom I would not be here today. Thank you to Governor Healy and Lieutenant Governor Driscoll for nominating me. The Judicial Nominating Commission, Chief Legal Counsel Boudou, and Legal Counsel Kessenheim for the honor of being here today. Legal Program Coordinator Batista and Administrative Assistant Alta Marino for all of your assistance throughout this process. I want to thank the members of this council for taking the time to speak with me over the last few weeks and to be here today. Thank you to Judge Paradise and Judge Dunbar for speaking about me today. I want to thank the dozen of dozens of judges with whom I've worked throughout my career, and all the judges with whom I currently work. Everyone at the Hampden County Juvenile Court, including the judges lobby, probation department, and security. I'm very lucky to work in a court with such a collaborative team. The Hampden County Juvenile Court Clerk's Office, the management team, and the entire staff of the Hampden County Juvenile Court Clerk's Office. The Hampden County Juvenile Court is a very busy court. The 18 dedicated members of the clerk's office staff are on the front lines every day, creating the cases, pulling the files, docketing the court events, and processing the paperwork. It is their collaborative efforts that allow the clerk's office to thrive. I could not do my job without them, and it's been an absolute honor to lead this hardworking team. My predecessor and the juvenile court clerks for always being a resource for me. The Administrative Office of the Juvenile Court, Chief Gershengord, Deputy Court Administrator Tom Capazzo, for trusting me with the honor of serving as the acting clerk magistrate. My parents and my mother-in-law, it takes a village. I couldn't be here without them. I recognize that many of the children that the juvenile court serves are not as fortunate to have had the upbringing and support that I have had, and I am forever grateful. My children, Daniel and Emily, who are not here today due to logistics, school, and exams, being their mom has been the absolute most rewarding journey of my life. When I'm not working, I'm usually traveling to softball fields and basketball courts to cheer them on. And while they definitely did not inherit their athletic abilities from me, I am absolutely their biggest fan. I'm so incredibly proud of both of them, how hard they work, and the amazing young adults that they are becoming. My husband, Jim, he was raised by a single mom who taught first grade while raising 2 children. In 1990, at the age of 18, he enlisted in the military where he started his medical training. I'm very proud to be married to a veteran. When I met him in 2009, and many years after, he worked overnights in a very busy inner city emergency room. He now works in urgent care. He was on the front lines during COVID and worked very long, exhausting hours, and I never once heard him complain. That's just who he is. He works every day to help and heal people, all while being my partner, my best friend, and the absolute most amazing father to our 2 children. Now I'd like to tell you a little bit about my background. I'm the daughter of 2 parents who modeled hard work, teaching, and a passion for helping people. My father, after graduating college, enrolled in the Peace Corps, where he was assigned to a remote area in the Philippines, and he taught science and life skills to villagers. My mother was a teacher in the South Bronx, New York, teaching children living in poverty. When my parents married, they pursued their degrees in the evenings. I have fond childhood memories of Saturdays playing in the UMass Student Union and riding the campus bus for entertainment, while my parents took turns in the library working toward their degrees. Both of my parents went on to have careers as college professors while raising my sister and I. My parents are my inspiration. They shape my work ethic, my desire to help people, to share knowledge, to teach, and to serve the public. I graduated from the University of Rhode Island and then attended law school at the Western New England School of Law. In March of 2003, when I was fresh out of law school, I interviewed to be a judicial law clerk at the juvenile court. At this time, I knew 2 things. I wanted to help children and families, and I loved research and writing. Thank you to Judge Swords and Judge Dunbar for taking a chance on me. From this moment on, I made it my mission to learn everything I possibly could about juvenile law. I remained a judicial law clerk for 3.5 years until the time came for me to spread my wings and practice law. I gained experience practicing law, always hoping my path would lead me back to the juvenile court. My heart has always been with the juvenile court. In 2012, I was very pregnant with my 2nd child when my dream position of an assistant clerk magistrate in the juvenile court posted. I applied and interviewed when my daughter was 3 days old. I remember my husband dropped me off at the courthouse and drove around the city with our newborn daughter while I interviewed. I was fortunate to get the position, and I began as an assistant clerk magistrate when our daughter was 5 weeks old and our son was just under 4 years old. This timing was certainly not ideal, but I was grateful for the opportunity to serve as an assistant clerk magistrate in the juvenile court, and I was determined. During my 18-year tenure with the juvenile court, I've been fortunate to have been promoted many times, and each promotion provided me with a new opportunity to gain more knowledge and a better understanding of court operations. 9 years later, in July of 2021, I was driving home one evening and I received a call from the Chief Justice appointing me as the acting clerk magistrate. This was now an opportunity to use the knowledge I had acquired in 5 different positions to lead the clerk's office team. Since 2021, I've managed the clerk's office in 2 courthouses. I oversee operations, personnel, and fiscal management. The clerk magistrate wears many hats and juggles many balls every day. I have experience with all of them. But the best part of my job is helping people. The clerk's office is usually the first stop in the process for the public, litigants, defendants, parents, and victims, many of whom are experiencing trauma and are going through the most difficult circumstances of their lives. I take pride in making them feel comfortable, putting them at ease, and helping them navigate the court process. Through the years, I've conducted countless show cause hearings, and I've crafted many resolutions that have allowed youths who've made a mistake and taken a wrong turn to avoid a criminal record and get back on the right path. I'm very passionate about juvenile law, and I enjoy sharing this with others. I've taught juvenile law at 2 local colleges in their pre-law programs, and I've developed an internship program because I want to lead others like myself 20 years ago toward a career in the juvenile court. The juvenile court is a very special place, and it takes more than legal expertise. It takes heart and compassion. It's a place that can be very sad when children are removed from their parents' care, but it's also a court of second chances, a court where families are reunified, and a court that sees the potential in youngsters that they don't always see in themselves. Those that know me know that the 2 most important things to me are my family and the juvenile court. I truly enjoy the work that I do every day. Should I be fortunate enough to be confirmed by this council, I can assure you that I will work tirelessly each and every day to serve the children and families of Hampden County, to protect children from abuse and neglect, to strengthen families, to rehabilitate juveniles, and to ensure equal access to justice. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. So by practice, we go around to our right, and so I will turn questioning over to Counselor Sippel.
Congratulations, Lori, on the nomination.
Yes.
Thank you for reaching out. It was wonderful to have a conversation with you about your experience. I know that when we were speaking over the phone that you indicated you started around COVID. I'd love for you to share your experience going in each and every day and making sure that the courtroom is running and functioning the way that it should while everything was in shutdown.
So I was the first assistant clerk magistrate during COVID and then became the acting clerk magistrate a few months into COVID. At first, I think we didn't know what to do and we were there determined just to keep court running. We used the phone. Actually, I remember doing some phone temporary custody hearings. The management team of the clerk's office was in the office, really trying to figure out, we didn't have e-filing, we had to scan everything. We were using email back and forth. We did whatever we could just on the front lines to keep court afloat. We started initially with just handling emergencies and then we evolved. We ended up using Zoom. We navigated that. We came up with a lot of new processes. And we really did everything on our ground just to keep court running and keep justice happening and keep everything happening. So we learned a lot through the process.
Thank you. And my other question is for interpreter service. If you should be confirmed, what are some of the things that you do to make sure that interpreters are available for families or individuals who need that? So
this is something that is very important to me. We work closely with the interpreter's office, myself, Judge Paradise, interpreter services have had meetings to try to improve our logistics with court interpreters. One of the things that's hard as a clerk is oftentimes when people come to our counter seeking help, we don't know in advance, so we obviously can't schedule an interpreter or plan for an interpreter. Last year, I submitted a grant, the innovative grant. The trial court gave us the opportunity to submit for a grant, and I submitted a grant for handheld interpretation devices, even though it's not necessarily a total solution, but just something to help when someone comes to the office and we don't know and we need to be able to communicate. I've also hired a diverse staff, many of whom are bilingual, and they're always really helpful whenever we need help with interpreting at the counter.
Thank you so much. I know Tara is a great supporter of yours, and I look forward to voting for you on the, during the assembly. But basically, no other question.
Thank you. Counselor Dolan, welcome.
Thank you.
And it's your turn.
Very good to see you. I really appreciated our discussion earlier. And I just wanted to ask you about a couple of things that we had talked about. We talked at some length about sort of the diversionary function that clerk magistrates serve and how that is misunderstood by a lot of folks. But I want to just, there are two instances where I'd like you to talk a little bit about how you would handle them. One is private complaints on minor misdemeanors. Whether your policy on that is to allow a hearing, which is not required by law, but many clerk magistrates do as a matter of practice. And you talked about using those as an opportunity for sort of an informal mediation. Can you tell us more about that?
Thank you. So, I'll start with when anyone comes to the counter, whether it be the police or a private complainant to file a complaint with criminal justice reform. The first thing we look for is, does the youth have a record? Have they been here before? And if not, and if it's a minor misdemeanor, we actually don't have jurisdiction anymore with the criminal justice reform. So we would dismiss it as a first offense. If it's a second offense or a major misdemeanor and it's a private complaint, my practice is to schedule a hearing, give everyone an opportunity to be heard. It's a great environment to do mediation when possible. So I feel like I do a lot of clerk hearings that end up resulting in mediation. Some of my best hearings have resulted in hugs at the end of the hearing. It's always really great when people can sit in a room together, be heard, and resolve matters. So that's generally how I approach private complaints. So the first step would be, if it's a minor misdemeanor first offense, with the new criminal justice reform, we wouldn't be able to schedule a hearing. But then after that, I would use it as an opportunity for mediation to try to resolve things.
Whether it's a private complaint or a police complaint, if you do, as clerk magistrate, make a finding of probable cause, are there other paths to resolve the case short of issuing a complaint?
Thank you. That's something that's very important to me. Any hearing I do, whether it be a private complaint or a police complaint, I'm always looking for paths. First step would be finding probable cause. And then I always take every effort to try to avoid using the criminal record. May have been a mistake of first offense, using it as a learning experience. My hearings tend to be somewhat of a collaborative approach where we'll try to work out resolutions anytime we can.
There are certain things that you talked about, restitution or damages, or things that tools that you would use in order to facilitate that process.
So we, a lot of times I'll do a continuance for a certain window of time, no further problems. I refer a lot of youth to the Family Resource Center. We're very lucky in Springfield and Holyoke to have two really great family resource centers that have a lot of programming. So sometimes I'll send youth there and have them do things. They have different classes there. They work with families, help get on the right track. So I'll send people here to a 3-month continuance to do some of that, no further problems with the law. And then ultimately the case will be dismissed, and it'll be dismissed as an application, so it never ends up being on their criminal record.
Very good. And it's true, Counselor Jacobs is a big supporter of yours. So no further questions.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Ziegler.
It's really great to see you today. Congratulations on your nomination. I appreciate the time that you took to speak with me and Samuel. He had a lot of questions for me. But it's clear, from your resume that you have the experience. During our conversation, you mentioned that you've done every job essentially in the magistrate's office, which not many candidates who come before us have that as a foundation. So I just have a few questions for you, some of which we did kind of touch upon. Magistrate's office is the first face of the court, right? It's the first impression that people get when they walk in. And so it's important that there is a level of warmth where there can be and respect and dignity that's offered to those who come before the office. How would you support your staff to create that level of welcome? How would you maintain morale within staff?
So Thank you. I'll start by kind of echoing one thing I said in my statement, that our staff is amazing. We have a very hardworking staff. I know I tell everyone, and I think our staff also takes helping the public as our #1 responsibility. So it's just something that's so important in our office. We do get a lot of people at the counter, a lot of, whether they're there for a delinquency case or that their children were just removed, a lot of high emotions, trauma. I feel like it's really important. It's our #1 most important function, is to be there, to be welcoming, to listen, to make everyone feel comfortable, to try to make it as comfortable as possible for them. I think it starts with hiring, with culture in the office. I think we have a great team. Everyone knows it's one of our primary functions. Try to cultivate a really positive environment, and just help everyone that comes in. It's our #1 most important job.
So, one of the other skills that you have is instruction, teaching and instruction, which not many candidates do bring to the table, which lends itself to this role because there's always something new to learn for yourself, for your staff. How would you prioritize professional development for yourself and for your staff?
So I love teaching, and I love going to trainings. With my application, I submitted a list of all the trial court trainings I have attended. I try to take advantage of every possible opportunity to learn. I feel like in this job, there's always new things to learn, laws change, new procedures. So I try to go to trainings, make sure our staff goes to as many trainings as they can. Now, a lot of the trainings are by Zoom, which is really easy to attend trainings. So try to just encourage everyone to attend as many trainings as possible. I love working with everyone individually. We come up with, whenever there's a new law, procedures, I come up with written material. Just the other day, I drafted for our staff guidance on a new memo of understanding with probate and family court. So I drafted guidance for the attorneys and for our staff. So everyone has written instructions. I generally use a lot of written instructions, just so everyone has something to refer to. With our court, because we do both civil law and delinquency law, there's a lot to remember, a lot of different processes. So I tend to do a lot of written instructions, flowcharts, graphs, meet with everyone, have an open door policy. Anytime staff has questions, they can come in and ask me.
Last question is, you hit the nail on the head during our conversation and earlier today, when you talked about the weight that people come into the clerk magistrate's office with. There's a lot of trauma. There's just a lot of fear, uncertainty. So wherever the office can, or however they can minimize additional trauma for people coming before them, it's imperative to do so. What strategies would you use to expedite cases where you can, and to just move the docket along?
So I think biggest thing again is when people come in, being calm, listening, making them feel welcome, letting them know we're there to help them. I think anything that's an emergency, we expedite right away. I think one thing in our court, sometimes there's a delay with attorneys. So when someone is really going through a lot of stress, trying to see if we could expedite that process to get them an attorney as quickly as possible. That would be probably the most important thing, because sometimes there's time, especially on the care and protection side, there'll be a window between when their children are removed and when they get an attorney. So just trying to expedite that, working with CBCS to make that happen as quickly as possible so that they have legal representation, and just being there to listen, make sure they understand the steps of the process. I think sometimes people come in and they don't understand, so sure they know what's going to happen, know what the next step is, so that they have expectations as well for what's going to happen.
Thank you. I appreciate that answer. And Counselor Jacobs, as has been said, is a big supporter of yours. And as she mentioned earlier, we did receive a stack of a dozen or so recommendations for you, and so you have a lot of great support. And it's clear you have the experience. So thank you for taking the time to answer my questions with such diligence. Counselor Jacobs.
Sorry. Next, Counselor Kennedy. It's your turn.
We have a couple hours with the question.
Take your time.
For 4 years. Right? 4 years, you've basically been doing it as acting clerk.
Yes.
You haven't messed it up yet, right? Fair to say?
Not that I know.
I know you haven't messed it up because when I was reading all the recommendations, including from people that work for you, and work around you and judges and things, you know, I felt like I was reading War and Peace. So many of them. Clearly, you have a good relationship with your staff and with the other folks you work with and with the judges. And we had a very long conversation on the phone last week, I think it was, when I was laying in bed recovering. I don't remember any of it because I was on medication. But I'm sure it was a good conversation. The first justice talked about how busy the juvenile court is out there. You know, one of the ways and one of the things we did talk about is one way to keep them from being too busy is diversion at the court level. What percentage of magistrates hearings would you say end up in diversion? What's the guesstimate? You don't have to give me an exact.
Thank you.
Half, 50%, 25%.
Backtrack and say that first we would screen out any first-time minor misdemeanors. So I would say that there's a very good percentage that are dismissed before we even get to the show cause stage. So those are going to be all your youth's first-time offense, minor misdemeanors. Then from the show cause hearings, I would guesstimate 60 to 65%. I would say maybe 60%, 50 to 60, 65, somewhere in that vicinity. You know, that come in, usually it's a first-time offense, and we could work out a resolution.
Cause you not to divert a case for a first-time offense. It's a clerk, it's a magistrate's hand, so the kid wasn't arrested.
I would think that, well, if they definitely had notice and they didn't show up, that would definitely be a
Well,
reason.
that's a different issue, but even then, don't you think you should try to re-summons them? Because you're talking about kids and sometimes parents, especially like in the Springfield area, they don't always understand what they're getting because they're not necessarily, English isn't necessarily their first language, right? So do you just automatically default them and issue the complaint in a situation like that?
Take steps to try to make sure that they had notice, and I would say we have a very good attendance rate. We'd also offer Zoom if it was necessary.
Wait a minute, the notice, you send out 2 notices, one to the kid and one to the parents, right? It might be 15 years old. We already know that their minds aren't fully developed. They're not gonna pay attention to that if they see it at all. And so then you got the parent, maybe a single parent, maybe someone who's working, just too busy to get there. You're just gonna issue that complaint without like, even if they got notice, trying to like make sure that they understand the gravity of their situation and try to get them in?
I think we would take every step to make sure they're there, make sure they have notice, and then from there, it would still be the probable cause determination. I would never issue a complaint if there wasn't probable cause. So we would take as many steps as possible to get them there.
Let's assume that there's probable cause in all of these cases for a minute. We're talking about kids and giving them a record, right? Once you issue that complaint, they have some kind of record, right? All right, let me back up. Let's talk about what kind of cases you divert. Fight in school, assault and battery, 2 kids. Is that getting diverted?
Well, it would go to a hearing, and then first step obviously would be probable cause, and then it would be to hear what occurred, what happened. I would take every possible step I could to divert it.
I gave you all the facts. They had a fight. Nobody's hurt.
No one's hurt. I would say very likely I would divert that.
Okay, so now we take the same fight and one kid got a black eye.
I would likely divert that.
Hmm.
I would very likely divert that.
You divert that? Okay, what if one kid got a broken nose? At what point do you decide you're not gonna divert it?
So I feel like it gets more challenging when there's medical bills, injuries. Our our DA's office also has a very diversion program that takes a lot of cases as well. So oftentimes, if I issued the case, it may then end up in the diversion program through the DA. That also would prevent the youth from getting a record. So we have 3 layers in our court. The first step would be the first offenders, minor misdemeanors, which would be the first step to divert out. The second level of diversion would be clerk's office diversion, which would be myself or the assistant clerks at a show cause hearing. And then the third step for diversion would be if I issue the complaint, the district attorney's office then does take many youths into diversion.
So there's multiple
Yeah,
opportunities.
multiple levels.
I get that, but we're just talking, you're not involved with the district attorney's office at that point. We're talking about what you're gonna do. Okay, so, negligent operation of a motor vehicle, 16, 17-year-old kid, just got their license, they have a tendency to put the foot on the gas a little too hard. We've all seen that, and sometimes it can result in tragic circumstances just from that, obviously. You're gonna divert that?
I think it would depend on many factors. I mean, it's really hard to say. A lot depends on,
Well, what are the factors that would cause you not to divert that?
I think part of it would depend on their demeanor when they come in, if they're, realized taking responsibility for it. I think there's so many factors. Obviously, once I find probable cause, the way the law is written, it needs to be in agreement too with the parties, so the police would have a voice in the process as well. I feel like our hearings tend to be very collaborative and we tend to work out resolutions all the time when we can.
I couldn't think of a circumstance where I wouldn't divert that one if nobody was hurt.
If no one was hurt, I very likely would divert that.
Let's step it up. What if it was a driving under? You got a 17-year-old kid who was drinking, didn't get arrested for whatever reason. Maybe he hit a pole and they took him to the hospital to make sure he's okay and serious. What are you gonna do with that?
I think, again, there's so many factors that come in because the way the law is written is once I find probable cause, it then needs to be a collaborative discussion with all the parties. Again, I make every effort to try to resolve cases for every opportunity I can to prevent a child from getting a record.
Would your tendency be to divert that or not divert that? Your first tendency?
And what did you say for, was anyone?
Operating under the influence.
I would,
He's got no record, he's 17 years old, he shouldn't have been drinking at all, obviously. Certainly shouldn't have been drinking and driving. What are you gonna do with it? Because I can tell you, you issue that complaint, he's not getting his license back till he's 21.
I would again try if he, and there's so many factors if he comes in, apologetic, realizes what gravity of circumstances that could have happened, maybe take some steps toward getting him some education.
Apologetic when you get a 15, 16, 17-year-old kid, you know that. Sometimes they have a little bit of an attitude, it's because they're adolescents, it's because they haven't matured enough.
I have one of those at home.
I mean, I had kids, I know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would,
They're in their 30s, I'm not sure they're still mature enough, but that's a different thing. You know what I mean? It's like, well, at what point are you gonna say, well, just on the charge? Because I've seen it. With this charge, we have to issue it.
I mean, I feel like every case that I do a show cause hearing is different, and every case I'm gonna factor in everything. I always take a collaborative approach. I always try to use it as an opportunity for education. If we can get in there and do any kind of continuance on any case and help a kid get back on the right track, that's always gonna be my approach for every hearing.
See, when we talked on the phone, you were very clear that you're a big believer in diversion.
Absolutely.
And I don't want the first justice to be overworked. He already said he's too busy, you know what I mean? So you can help him out a lot that way, you know? No, we had a long talk on the phone, and my view of juvenile court is the vast majority of the cases, even if it's not a first time in there, should get diverted. Because I have seen the impact that has on people's lives later on, much later. It can be, sometimes you'll get a kid that's a little bit of a punk when he's 16 or 17 years old, and now he's out of college, and you know what, he decides he wants to be a police officer. Can't become one because of that complaint that issued in juvenile court. It might be a complaint that prohibits him from carrying a firearm. Can't be a police officer. Some police departments require you have a license to carry. Not all of them, but some do. It could be all kinds of things that could affect them. So my view is the role of the court magistrate should be to prevent as many of those complaints as possible from issuing, because they have an impact on. I know they say that delinquencies, they're not criminal records. I know we talk about the fact that they're not as accessible as adult records, but my experience seems to be otherwise. They still seem to affect people in a lot of ways throughout their lives. So you as a gatekeeper, to use the word that applies to clerk magistrates, can really do a lot to help a lot of kids along the way, even if they made 1, 2, 3, 4 mistakes by sending them into diversion. I popped up when the judge was talking, because Counsel Ferrara called me to tell me that yeah, he was stuck in a massive traffic jam and would be late, but he wanted to express his support for your nomination.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Oh, we got a big supporter there. She does a lot for Western Massachusetts, by the way. I hope you bring that message back to everybody back there.
And she attends a lot of our court events too, like this National Adoption Day this Friday.
Can't wait, I'm gonna be there. Thank you, Counselor. Counselor DePaulo.
Thank you. Happy National Adoption Day this week. I'm excited to attend in Worcester on Friday. Counselor Jacobs is excited that this seat will no longer be active. So she's been an advocate for your region in general. But good morning, congrats on your nomination. I just want to pick up on, you've been doing the job well enough that no one has anything negative to say about you, which is important. None of that trickled out, so that's great. You clearly have the you're clearly in the right spot. So that's where my inclination is. But I do want to ask you about some things that just came up. I used to teach high school, and my oldest daughter is a freshman in high school now. And I was having a conversation with her about class placement and thinking about the classes she's in right now and where she'll be in the next, her projection for the next couple of years. And as a teacher, what I noticed as an English teacher is that in the schools I taught at, there would typically be an honors level class and something like a college prep class or an A level. Every district has its own terminology. And a lot of times there was a much stronger correlation in my view, between placement in an honors class and behavior or demeanor, as compared to placement in an honors class and academic skill, or I don't know, the rigor of academic preparation. So when I hear demeanor come up in the context of the courtroom, my ears perk up. Because I was listening to the conversation that just happened. I mean, I'm wondering, like, why the demeanor of a child appearing in court would impact diversion yes, diversion no, something being issued, something being non-issued. I just want to hear a little more of your thoughts on demeanor of a child.
And I apologize, that may have been the wrong terminology. I feel like after I make a probable cause determination, it then almost becomes a discussion and a mediation. And I always just take every step to try to resolve cases. I'm always going to try to prevent a youth from getting a record. And having that collaboration and hearing what's going on, and sometimes it'll be hearing about what's going on at home or hearing on, and obviously all of that factors into all the circumstances in the child's life to try to factor in. And I feel like I always will take the approach of trying to, avoid a record. And the best hearings is engaging, and we're having a discussion when we're able to really resolve things and move forward and use it as a learning experience.
I apologize that we didn't have a chance to talk ahead of the hearing. There's a case from the SJC called Ulani that deals with a child who was held in contempt in juvenile court for cursing out the judge in that case. And the SJC overturned the contempt and wrote a pretty robust decision regarding what it means under state law that the state treat a child as if it were, I'm not going to get the terminology right, but I'm sure you know the spirit of what I mean, that we treat children under state custody as if the state were the parent. Is there ever a situation, have you ever seen a child held in contempt in court, or is there any behavior that would rise to the level of holding a child in contempt in your view?
I personally have not. I mean, we have situations in our office where people get escalated. I mean, I've taken a lot of trainings on de-escalating. Our court officers also will come in and assist with de-escalating when necessary. I have not personally seen that happen in our court.
Can you imagine a scenario where that would happen?
I would think it would be an absolute last resort. We would do everything to try to de-escalate and try to keep things calm and use all the resources that we have available.
And so I won't beat a dead horse here, but just like the life circumstances the children are walking into in the court and the way they present before a judge, which can be manifesting so many experiences that they've had with adults, whether it be gender-based, race-based, the circumstances of authority, whatever the case may be. My ears did perk up, and I'm hopeful that we're dealing with the philosophy that you espouse and not necessarily the demeanor of the child or the way that child presents in the very limited amount of time that they'd be before you or anywhere else. But that to say, I hear that you're doing an outstanding job, and certainly I look forward to supporting you to keep that up. But I appreciate your thoughtfulness around those questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. So as often happens when I chair, most of the questions I was prepared to ask of you have been asked in the room. I do have a couple, and then we'll wrap. But some of them are tangential to the ones you've already been asked, but sort of I'd like to just dive a little deeper. And the first really is about I guess community resources in Hampden County. You serve two very busy juvenile courts in Hampden County between Holyoke and Springfield, right? And so my question, I appreciate all the focus on diversion. It's an important topic to me as well. I guess my question is for you to assess the needs, the gaps that might exist in Hampden County in terms of serving juveniles who may have mental health challenges, may have substance use challenges, trauma, all the things that are, I'm sure, every day coming through your office. What would you share about where we're well-resourced versus where there may be some gaps and needs?
So thank you. Right off the bat, I think the biggest gap is mental health and substance abuse treatment. It is very common that a parent will come to our office really just seeking help because they don't know where to go. They can't get treatment. They come to the court really just looking for help. And it's really hard because there really is a lack of beds, available services. Oftentimes the youth is willing to go voluntarily, they just can't find a place to go. So I would absolutely say that is the biggest gap. We're really lucky in Springfield and Holyoke to work with two really great family resource centers. They are a hub so I send a family to the family resource center. They work with the family on sending them, whether it be housing services, help with IEP issues, legal help. They're basically a hub for a lot of services, and we're really fortunate to have two great family resource centers. I actually recently started a process where I have a representative from the Family Resource Center at some of our show cause hearings for parents that don't send their child to school. Juvenile law has jurisdiction when a parent fails to send their child to school for more than 7 days in a 6-month window. And I've created a system where the Family Resource Center is actually there, and they're not in the room because of confidentiality issues, but they're available right outside. So I do the hearing, and usually in the hearing, there's some reason why the parent isn't sending the child to school, whether it's transportation, IEP, bullying. So usually what I'll do on those is I never want to issue a criminal complaint for failing to send a child to school. What we all want to see is let's find a way to help get the family help so they can get the child to school. And so I've created a system where we have the Family Resource Center there right at the courthouse, and the parent will leave actually call them in, they introduce them, and then they leave right there, and they actually go into a conference room and start the intake process. And then the Family Resource Center will direct them to services in the community that can help them.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. So the second question, again, looking at Holyoke and Springfield, and those are in the district that I represent, the most diverse cities population wise. And I'm curious about data collection in the juvenile court around racial disparities and representation of the different populations, versus what the breakdown is in general versus what the breakdown is in court, if you're tracking that and if you've seen trends change.
So I personally have not tracked the data. I'm not sure, the administrative office, we have Tableau, which is a data collection. I know the administrative office tracks a lot of data. So I'm not sure exactly, if the data is collected, but it's something I'm always very conscious of. And I feel like I've really, have worked hard to make our office, have diversity, be welcoming to everyone. I treat everyone, every show cause hearing the same, everyone that comes before me. So I'm not exactly sure on a data collection level, what data is being collected, but I would love to be a part of any form of a committee that did work on that data.
For sure there is one, so that would be great. And then I guess just as a last follow-up to some of the prior questions, which I really appreciated listening, hearing both the questions and your answers to them, but you talked a lot about professional development and trainings that you've done. I'm just curious if there have been trainings or if they're available, if you would prioritize trainings around trauma informed practice, recognizing signs of trauma and the behaviors that reflect a traumatic response, which often are on the rude and disrespectful side frequently. I'm just curious about that.
Yes, so there are a lot of trainings. There's multiple different layers of trainings, some that are required I believe the administration, some that are all trial court wide, and then some that are required out of our administrative office. And every one of our staff members a few years ago went to counters. Basically, it was a training on how to help people at the counter and trauma and how to assist the public. And there was actually 2 series on that, and it was actually required for everyone. So I didn't even need to make it mandatory for our staff because it was something required by the trial court, but absolutely 100%, I hands down prioritize it.
No, I appreciate that. All that to say, it's been a pleasure chairing your process and overwhelming support from all those who've worked with you, and you've had significant amount of time basically in the role demonstrating your ability to navigate that and manage that well. So with that, I'm going to close your hearing and congratulate you again for the nomination.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Now that you sat down, Counselor Kennedy. I'd like to recognize Counselor DiPaolo for a prayer and for leading us in a pledge of allegiance.
Thank you. This morning, I simply offer a moment of silence in recognition of those who suffer as the weather turns cold and for those who are on the front lines providing social services. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
Justice for all.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to recognize Counselor Kennedy for a motion to record advice and consent for the financial warrant.
So move, Governor.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Ziegler. All those in favor? Any opposed? The ayes have it. I'd like to recognize Counselor Ferreira for a motion to record advice and consent for the pending list of notaries public and justices of the peace.
So move, Governor.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Dolan. All those in favor? Any opposed? The ayes have it. I'd like to recognize Counselor Ziegler for a motion to record advice and consent for the appointment of Ann Dolly to the position of Clerk Magistrate of the PBD District Court.
I'd like to put that motion forward. And I'd also like to say that Ms. Dolly is more than qualified for this role. I've received many recommendations on her behalf, and I encourage the council to support her nomination.
Thank you, Counselor. Is there a second? Seconded by Counselor Civil. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I would ask Sonia to please follow.
Counselor Sigler?
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy?
Yes.
Counselor DiPaolo?
Yes.
Counselor Jacobs? Yes. Counselor Ferrera?
Yes.
Counselor Civil?
Yes.
Counselor Dolan? Yes. Counselor Yanela?
Yes.
8 members voting, 8 in the affirmative. The matter carries. I'd like to recognize Counselor DiPaolo for a motion to record advice and consent for the appointment of Patrick Rafferty to the position of Clerk Magistrate in the Uxbridge District Court.
I happily offer that motion.
Which has been made by Counselor DiPaolo, seconded by everyone by Counselor Kennedy. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'd ask Sonia to please call the roll.
Counselor DiPaolo?
Yes.
Counselor Jacobs?
Yes.
Counselor Ferrera?
Yes.
Counselor Civil? Yes. Counselor Dolan?
Yes.
Counselor Yanela?
Yes.
Counselor Sigler?
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy?
Yes.
8 votes in the affirmative, the matter carries. I think we have 2 new nominations. Francis Butcher Dahlmeyer to the position of Associate Justice in the District Court. Counselor Dolan, are you working on that hearing if you have a date and time?
Time.
Awesome.
December 3rd at 11.
12/3 at 11 a.m. And then we also have Toya Taylor to the position of Associate Justice of Probate and Family Court. Counselor Civil, I think that's your district. Any chance you have a date and time yet?
Not yet, but it most likely would be the same date, just confirmed.
To be determined on that one. All right, I think that concludes our business. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion made by Counselor DiPaolo, seconded by Counselor Ziegler. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those the ayes have it. We stand adjourned.